Hey guys and gals, welcome to our first ever 3-part interview with John Davidson. If you haven't heard the first 2 parts, make sure to go back and give those a listen. There's so much good stuff in there. You don't want to miss any of it. We have one more bit of housekeeping before we start today's episode. Thanks to everyone who participated in the Halloween draw. It means a lot to us that you took time out of your day to fill that out, so thank you. That said, there can only be one winner, and the winner is Asher Skylark. Congratulations, and make sure to check your Facebook Messenger. We'll be reaching out shortly with your prize. Now, for the rest of the interview.
So I got a couple questions about PRG. You've mentioned PRG a few times during the podcast. What is PRG?
I have no idea. Still trying to figure that out a year later. Yeah. PRG is an amazing company. It stands for Production Resource Group. And PRG was founded by Jerry Harris, who founded his own lighting company when he was 16 years old and started doing lighting on Broadway. That was about 33 years ago. PRG today is the largest entertainment production company in the world, with 73 offices worldwide, producing, a ridiculous amount of shows a year. This is the company that produces the Super Bowl halftime show, the Fortnite World Cup, the Grammys, the Emmys. 90% of Broadway lighting is PRG. Global tours for U2, Beyonce, most major artists.
Small company.
Yeah.
Small events.
Right. So anything that has to do with production, we provide unique solutions for movies. So there's a great case study on the PRG website where the movie The Joker. Did you guys happen to see the movie Joker?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a really iconic scene in there where he's in the subway and he kills those 3 dudes who are picking on him. Well, they were trying to figure out how to shoot that shot to make it feel like he was really in a subway. And so PRG was able to offer a technical solution to achieve the results that they wanted for that shot. And so we do that for Marvel movies, for Netflix specials, things like that. And so, most importantly, I talk about, comes down to it being cool to hang out with. It is such a tremendous culture, so many wonderful people that I just really love, and it's become a family. And so I've created some amazing relationships with these people, and they've brought me on to lead esports for them globally, which is just a tremendous honor. And a lot of people some people have been like, John, you're at GameStop and you're doing marketing, and then you go to a production company. Like, how does that make sense? And if people understand my further background, I have production. I've been a producer. I produced associate producer on a Tony Hawk documentary that just came out too. Tony Hawk Pro Skater documentary, I should say. But what I do for PRG is help them learn how to engage with the space in a way that adds value to the community, right? So what I look for, I really see myself as a gamer and a member of the esports community who's on the inside with this tremendous company with unmatched capabilities. So what I say with that is like, okay, I understand what gamers want and need. I have the ability to leverage, unmatched technology and patented solutions that are, that we're working on the Super Bowl. How can we take that and how can we like reimagine and enhance the esports fan experience in a way that makes for cooler experiences for fans, so it drives attendance. So that's a KPI for leagues and teams, right? Driving attendance. It's unforgettable experiences, so that's a tremendous value to the community. And then also the brands, which sponsorship is the largest revenue stream in esports right now. So how can we help brands at those iconic events better activate in ways that are memorable and create loyalty and positive sentiment and ultimately sales for your brand? So that's a little bit of how my mind works about joining a production company. And they do a tremendous job to support me, and I'm just really thankful to be part of that team.
So just by your voice, there's no passion in your job, right?
Right. I mean, you have to, dude, I did a LinkedIn post here the other day. I'll show you this if I can get on the screen. If you can see that. My mom gave me this for a business card holder. But what it says has my name, and it says, find your passion and make it your career. And I was talking to Jerry Harris, the founder of PRG, at our national sales conference last November. I did a speech on a new idea for a revenue stream. And then I connected with him afterwards just to thank him for asking the employees of the company, how to improve the company, which is rare. A lot of leaders don't enable the people doing the job to tell them how the job should be done, and they know best because they're doing it. I just asked him a couple questions. I said, one more thing, if there's one piece of advice that I should take away from you and your experience, what should it be? And he said, don't spend any time doing stuff that you don't love. And that was really an interesting thought to me. I don't know if I agree with that 100%, because I've done a lot of things I don't love to get to a place where I can do something I love, if that makes sense. Because I've mapped it out. I've seen how I need to get there and what I need to accomplish, But I'm a big believer in developing launch pads for yourself. Is that something you have any interest in discussing?
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is like partially why my hair's falling out and why I'm stressed so much. I continually find myself on the edge of my experience. And what I mean by that is I think it's part of just kind of how I'm designed. I have just kind of a knack for seeing vision to see what will come or what can come and steps to get there. So I tend to look at my own personal situation and I say, how can I use the work I'm doing now to get myself to do the work I want to do? And so what that means, I'll give you a great example. I used to manage a design studio. And this is really, a shout out to the guy I was working with there, because he understands that. And I learned this from him, which we were doing, we were going to pitch Cabela's for an ad campaign. And my friend who I worked with, he got the opportunity to design a magazine cover for Photoshop magazine. And they said, just use the word type, T-Y-P-E, and you do whatever you want, right? So my friend, who's this incredible illustrator and designer and animator, he did a Photoshop cover that was all like very nature themed, with animals and nature and trees and stuff like that. And do you guys know what Cabela's is? Like Bass Pro, basically? Yeah. So essentially, my friend did this, and he was a master at it, and so I've learned how to do it myself, but is how to take something, if you think about this moment, he was getting paid to do the magazine cover, right? So he used a piece that he was paid to do as a pitch piece for something that he wanted to get paid to do. Does that make sense? So I'll give you another example of how I've done this just recently. And this hasn't happened yet, but by the time this comes out, it will have happened. As I'm here at home and trying to build my network during coronavirus and stuff, trying to add value to as many people as I can, a friend of mine reached out who's very close with Gary Vaynerchuk's team. And Gary Vaynerchuk is amazing. He's really inspirational figure to me. I've met him one time and had a great conversation, and it was really an unforgettable conversation I never thought I'd have the opportunity to have with somebody like that. His team was pulling together a panel for a conference, and his right-hand person basically needed brands for this panel, and she was having a hell of a time pulling anybody together. And it was like 2 days before the conference, and they needed 3 brands. So she was in a tough spot. My friend who knows her said, you need to talk to John. John knows all these brands, right? And that's a benefit of my time at GameStop, and then continue to build those relationships. So I just thought in my mind, I was like, I don't know where this is going to take me, but I do see opportunity here, right? What's the opportunity? The opportunity to add value to somebody who I want to create a relationship with. So I said, let me just kill it for her. Let me just like put my day aside, what I had planned, and I'm just going to go for it. So I was fortunate to bring 4 different brands to the table for them in one day, which it was an easy sell. It was like, hey, you want a one-on-one with Gary Vaynerchuk? I can hook you up. Who's going to say no to that, right? They were so thrilled that I helped them in a time of need that I got on the phone with this person, and she said, John, what can I do for you? What can we do for you? What can Gary do for you? And I was like, whoa, never thought I'd have somebody ask me that, And so I said, well, I'd love to do some content with him, whether that's a podcast, whatever, I want to align myself with his brand and with him. I want to create a personal friendship over time. But more immediately, I want, alignment with somebody like that can help lift your brand, right? So we came up with an idea, and she said, why don't we do this? Why don't we do a esports roundtable, John, where you bring together leaders of the esports community, of the industry. You host and moderate it, and Gary is your co-host. And I was like, that sounds incredible. Never thought I'd have that opportunity. And so then I took it to another step, right? Or two more steps. I said, okay, I know Gary is an easy sell because people want to get in front of him. So let me not just bring together the people I know. Let me bring together people in this roundtable who I don't yet know, so I can build relationships with them, and they'll have just an organic gratitude that I connected them with Gary, right? So half of this panel are people I know, and literally half of this panel are people I've never talked to, but we're going to become great friends because we're now creating a networking opportunity. And then the next level is, this was right around the time I decided to launch my own company. So I'm going to announce it at this roundtable because I believe that the content will probably be highly viewed. And so I'm using that launchpad. So do you see how through that situation, I saw opportunity and then created a couple different launchpads?
Oh, absolutely. That's incredible.
So that's basically how my brain works all the time. And so that's what I just continually try to do is like, what am I doing now that can give me a launch pad? And how can that launch pad not get me to where I want to go, but how can that launch pad get me to the next launch pad? And I see infinite launch pads. I don't see a desired goal, which to me is most exciting because I've been in places where I achieved my goal of like a dream job or something, and the fantasy never is the reality, right? So it's like I don't know if you know this, but did you know like racing dogs, like you know how they have that little rabbit that they chase? I've heard, maybe it's a myth, I heard that if that dog catches that rabbit, they never race again. I think I saw that on a Disney movie, so I don't know if it's true or not. But if it is, it's appropriate for the analogy. But so my thing is like, rather than having like a rabbit to catch, just have a continuous pursuit and see where it takes me.
Do you play chess?
No, but I might start.
Man, you're always, it sounds like you're one move ahead.
Thanks. I try to be. I play pool. I love playing pool. And pool, when you're at a certain level, I have a pool table in my house. And so coronavirus has been good for sharpening my pool skills because a lot of my evenings are just me, a little music, and this pool table. And when you play pool at a certain level, you're planning at least 3 shots ahead. Where you're running a table of 9 ball or something like that. But what I love I would say about something like pool beyond something like chess, and I'm not criticizing chess, but chess has strategy, right? But all it is strategy. Like there's not a question of can you physically move the piece to that square. But in pool, you have strategy plus execution, right? Because I might be able to look at the pool table and see my next 3 moves, but I also have to execute to not only make the ball, but position the cue ball to set me up for the next shot. So I love having that like next level of challenge, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Now, with PRG, I'm not sure. I'm sure you have an answer for this. But
thanks for setting me up. Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Do you see any collaborations, or do you foresee any collaborations between live events, live sports, and esports?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is something that's happening a little bit. You have a variety of things happening here. So basically every traditional sports league has created at least an integration with esports through the video game simulator, that's their sport. So FIFA, Major League Soccer, MLB The Show, Major League Baseball, NBA 2K League Basketball, NFL Madden. FIFA, Major League Soccer and FIFA have really lucked out because it's just an organic fit that just happens to work out. But what I always urge teams, professional players, and people to do is don't engage the gaming community through the sports games, because those are second, third tier. They're really not main games as far as esports. Now, they're main games as far as sales every year, and that can be confusing. People say, oh, like NBA 2K is a top 3 seller every year. The league must be very successful. Well, it's not, because NBA 2K turns out it's a lot of fun to play. It's not a lot of fun to watch. So the watchability is a really strong piece of what you're playing. But I would encourage teams, leagues, and players, instead of playing these sports simulator games and trying to pull people to you, go to them and play the video games that they want to play. And those games, those esports games, are going to be League of Legends, Valorant, Super Smash, Counter-Strike, Fortnite, FGC games, Dota 2, Overwatch. There's 20 plus games that make up esports. But so I think that's something that you see, like NASCAR naturally falling into a great situation because that's an actual simulator. You see FIFA naturally falling into a great situation. And people see that and they say, we can replicate that success with basketball, with football, with baseball, whatever. And it's just not that simple. And so I would encourage people to, hey, reach out to me and DLC can help. Plug.
Okay, so do you foresee any cultural shifts in esports if they're given the same visibility, technology, platforms as traditional sports?
Yeah, I think it'll go much more mainstream. What I personally want to see, well, this is a big difference between my two backgrounds, skateboarding and gaming. Skateboarders want nothing to do with any company that's not owned or operated by skateboarders, which actually hurts the space. It does two things. It keeps the space pure, but it doesn't enable it to grow for a variety of reasons. Esports, there's what I call a healthy skepticism, which is actually healthy for the space. Because there's initial skepticism as far as like, wait, you're not from the space, what do you want? But when these brands integrate and engage in a way that is meaningful for the community, when you give the community things they want that they can't attain for themselves, that's when they're embraced. And so that enables growth, that enables more funding in the space, a number of things. And so I think we'll see more tournaments. We'll see, I know Vindex, which my buddy Sundance, shout out, is head of over there. They are just acquired Belong gaming arenas, so they're going to be doing like gaming arenas all around. That'll be interesting how that works in the American culture. It's very successful in Asia, parts of Europe, but it'll be interesting to see how our culture adapts to it. I think the biggest thing is going to be education. And so one of the things that I'm doing right now, I'm involved in writing an esports business curriculum for SMU, Southern Methodist University here in Dallas. And I'm writing the business development and revenue strategies course for this curriculum, which is really exciting. And I'm actually going to be teaching it online next semester. So go sign up. But I think you're going to see, it's going to be more obvious the benefits of gaming from an educational perspective, especially for young people. We really fear what we don't understand, and a lot of parents don't understand gaming. And so the drawbacks or the concerns about gaming are obvious. There's you could be concerned about shooting games. You could be concerned about screen time. You could be concerned about talking to people online that you don't want your kids talking to. But there's a lot of the benefits are less obvious, and so I really think that as people are more aware of the benefits, and we start to prove out with some curriculums, some cool integrations in high school, in junior high, as well as college, it's really going to bring up the space from a technological perspective. And then over time, we're also going to have some some people running these teams and leagues who have business backgrounds and are also gamers, which is currently a pain point for the space. Currently, you kind of have two groups of people. You've got business people over here, and you've got gamers over here, and they can't talk to each other, and they don't know what the other knows. And so my hope with writing this curriculum is that I'm going to help with other people, of course, but I'm going to help bring up gamers who understand business. And then over time, that'll result in a sustainable growth for our industry.
One move ahead, like I said before.
Trying. Corner pocket.
We talked just before the podcast about this, but I have been, I guess, left in the dark about esports. I had no idea until I talked to Bob here last week about the industry. I had no idea of the size. I thought you talk about esports was going out and buying EA Sports and playing it yourself. But this is incredible. If I understand it correctly, it's bigger than any sport if you combined sports together. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. So there's a little more context that needs to be added to that. One, I don't have the latest numbers in front of me, but I will tell you that esports is, bigger than most other things, traditional sports. That's a global number, so that needs some context. The majority of esports enthusiasts, as the data analysts like to put it, are international, not in the US. So that needs some context too. Also, esports, this drives me crazy, but esports and sports are not talked about in the same way. Like you just talked about, right? You just said the esports community, the esports audience. Esports is comprised of about 20 different games, which comprise even more leagues, which comprise even more teams, right? When we talk about sports, nobody says, have you reached the sports enthusiast? It's 7 billion people globally, almost evenly split, male, female. We don't say that because we understand the demographic differences of soccer, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, etc., right? So what we don't understand yet well enough are those demographic separations between title. So what I'm hoping, and this is a big thing that's going to come too, I think within the next year is my prediction, but is these data analyst companies are going to be able to provide to say, look, the Dota 2 audience is this demographic. The League of Legends audience is this demographic. And the thing that's going to do is it's going to enable more targeted marketing. Because the concern right now is if you're a brand, you could sponsor a league or a team or content creator, whatever. You don't have the data to ensure that you're accurately targeting. So you could sponsor esports, target incorrectly, have a poor ROI, and just believe that all of esports is a bad investment, when in fact there just wasn't enough information to make an educated decision. Somebody else could get lucky, and they could just target properly based on, pure luck. And they're saying, oh my gosh, esports, highest, lift in sales in 20 years, whatever, this is great. Well, lightning doesn't strike twice too often, so be careful with your next investment, expecting the same thing. So, and the other thing I will say, what is bigger than esports, you have two esports and you have gaming. Gaming as a whole, or non-competitive gaming, is larger than the film and music industries combined. That's the big piece of the pie. Esports is much, much smaller. The reason why it's gained so much attention is I always say this, esports makes gaming sponsorable. It's very difficult to figure out how to sponsor and regularly integrate through marketing in a non-competitive game, right? Like imagine this, the game Red Dead 2. Are you guys familiar with Red Dead Redemption 2 by chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an old guy.
Yeah, I thought the chances were maybe 1 out of 2. So 50%. Perfect. Yeah. So it's basically this country western game. It's Grand Theft Auto in the country back in the 1800s or whatever. So you're riding around on a horse, you're going through these amazing countrysides, and you're killing people sometimes, or you're skinning a bear, all sorts of stuff. How do you as a brand integrate authentically in a way that enhances the experience of the community? It's really difficult. But if you look at esports, there are traditional sponsorship assets that brands see and are familiar with from traditional sports. Teams, leagues, social media, events, merch, right? So you see these things and you say, oh, I know how to now integrate into video games, which is what all young people are doing. Instead of watching sports, instead of watching traditional TV, I'll reach people through video games, through esports. And so that's a major distinction. But I will say the people, and I'm working on this too, ideating on a few things, but the people who can figure out marketing within non-competitive gaming that is embraced by the community will hit the home run. That's the big thing to figure out.
That is interesting. So what are you looking at? Is it like brand ambassadors that are going to go out there and promote?
No, really what you do is you have to identify what the community wants and what the opportunities are to accomplish those things, and then do them consistently over time. So I have like 5 pillars of ways to add value to the community. So a lot of it is based around experience. We understand that young people value experiences over owning products. And there's a variety of reasons for that. But so there's different types of experiences. There's a fan experience of going to a tournament or watching online. So how can your brand make that better for the fan? Competitive experience. The community wants to compete just as much as they want to watch. So how can you enable them to have unique opportunities to compete that they can't do on their own? Unique experience. How can you connect them with their hero? How can you give them a trip to the GameStop Performance Center with Complexity Gaming or whatever, And then the 2 others are content. Content is king. Develop content that matters to the community, optimized for mobile because everybody's watching on their phones. And then lastly, most valuable but also most difficult is in-game integration. If you can naturally integrate your brand into a game with the video game publisher, a lot of it is like, hey, if you do this thing physically, you get, DLC, you get currency, you get, unique skins in the game, things like that. Those are incredibly valued by the community. So those are just a couple of snippets, and so that's also a little bit of a tease as to what I want to provide my clients with, is helping to navigate that.
All right. I can't wait to hear more about this when you get this thing rolling, because it sounds like it could be a gold mine.
I hope so.
Yeah. Again, one step ahead.
Well, and being a gold mine is not my goal. I hope, I want to be able to support myself, of course. But yeah. I'm a big believer that, if you put people first, you put passion first, and if you go on that mission, that you feel so strongly about, and you help people in the ways that matter to them, the money will follow.
Everyone we bring on to the episode, they're all successful. And a lot of people think that they are lucky or they're just, handed it, but they don't understand about what it took to get to that position. So I'd like to just kind of talk to you a little bit about some of your hurdles.
Yeah. How much time do you got?
Yeah. Okay. I'll kick back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had quite a few, probably more than I wished I had, but one or two that are very significant that really stick out in my mind. One is just college. My last semester of college, I was able to squeeze 4 years of college into 4.5. So that was pretty good on my part. But my last semester, when I was set up for all my classes, I thought I would have to take 5 classes. Depending on how many units, like 12 units is a full load. So that's either 3 or 4 classes. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to take 5. And then I signed up for everything, took one last look at the requirements before I logged out, and there was one red dot still on the screen. And that red dot meant one more requirement that was still not met. And I thought to myself, screw it, you can do anything for one semester. So I ended up taking 6 classes my last semester of school. And I had essentially 2.5 jobs. I worked at Starbucks 28 hours a week. I ran a skateboarding program at a local church. And then I also was doing skate demos every other weekend with the skateboarding company that I was sponsored by. So that on top of the 6 classes. And then turned out I had some car issues that I won't really get into. But so on top of all of this, 6 classes, 2.5 jobs, I also had to ride my bike 5 miles to school and 3 miles the other way to work, uphill both ways in the snow, of course. Now, but one thing you realize when you have to ride a bike versus having a car when you're in school is how much stuff you typically keep in your trunk versus how much you have to lift on your back in your backpack to carry with you for one day. I got in really good shape that semester. But the other thing was, I remember looking back on my taxes, and that semester or that year, the amount of money I made $12,000 my junior year of college and $14,000 my senior year of college with no credit card and accrued no debt. And so I think that was something that just required so much sacrifice, so much prioritization of what you can afford, what you can't. The reason why I didn't get a credit card was I knew that I had such little money that if I had a card, if I went anything over what I had in the bank, I wouldn't be able to pay it off, right? So I would do my friend who owns a skateboard company, Ambassador Skateboards, that I'm sponsored by. He gives me crap about this all the time. But I used to go grocery shopping at the dollar store all the time. And boy, I learned how to leverage that dollar store, man. I could get more to that dollar store with $7 than what you could believe. And what else? I'd get free meals where I was able to wrangle a really good rent deal with where I lived. I remember a couple of years earlier, I was living in the Bay Area, and I was on a $2 a day budget, which was, I could not afford to spend more than $2 a day. And so what I would do is I would go to Red Robin, the restaurant, which has bottomless fries, and their bottomless fries are $2. So I would literally roll up to Red Robin, order a water and a basket of bottomless fries, and just get down, see if I could take some to go. As for other obstacles, I'll share this one with you, which was, sometimes we think a dream would be what we'd always want, and then it appears to just fall apart, but then it results in something that you'd never thought. It results in something taking you a place you never thought you'd go. For me, I was on a skateboarding tour for 6 months straight. And so what that means is I sold everything I had. I bought a one-way ticket to Boise, Idaho, which was the headquarters of this company. I thought I was getting on a tour for 2 months. My first day, they said, we got more funding, we got more tour dates. You're going to be on tour for 6 months straight. And I was like, perfect, I have nowhere to go. And so I was on this tour, and I think I found what I love to do. I'm going to do this for the next 10 years. This is awesome. Well, I broke my ankle really badly at the end of this tour, 1 week before the tour was going to actually end. So I ended up in Washington, D.C. with a broken ankle. Only person I knew was this girl I was dating. And she encouraged me to go to a temp agency to apply for employment. I'd had all these terrible jobs until this point. I did telemarketing. I've sold Kirby vacuums door to door. I've been that guy at the mall at the cell phone kiosk that you try to avoid eye contact with. Been that dude a couple of times. Hey man, you looking for a phone? No? Could have guessed that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. And so I go to this temp agency. And I remember vividly, there were 4 ladies in the middle of this room. And they were calling people, offering them jobs. So I was there doing my test, filling out my paperwork, all that stuff. I could overhear, there was one lady who, from what I could tell, the person on the other line of the phone didn't want this job. And I didn't think much of it, but I'm signing my paperwork, I'm turning it in, and I'm literally opening up the glass door, walking out of this place. And this woman comes after me, grabs me on the shoulder, and she says, "John, do you want a job starting tomorrow?" And I said, "Yes." I don't really care what I'm doing. Just get me some income ASAP. And it turned out, she said, "Well, the place is called Beers and Cutler." And I thought, alcohol and knives, this is perfect. No, I was wrong. It was a tax firm founded by Jim Beers and John Cutler. False advertising, if you ask me. So I started as a temp, just delivering mail, filling up printers with paper, cleaning out conference rooms, covering the receptionist's lunch hour when she was on lunch. Basically, everything nobody wanted to do. But my mom raised me to, you do everything to the best of your ability. And I worked hard, made great connections, and the culture in that tax firm was so amazing. And what it did was it opened my eyes to the idea of working in business, that working in an office could be a cool and enjoyable thing. And so I got hired on there full time, worked there for a couple of years, and then I went back to school to pursue my marketing degree. But that's an example of a tremendous hurdle, like literally not being able to walk. A hurdle that keeps you from being able to hurdle quite much of anything because you're literally, in a wheelchair. But it opened doors for me that I never thought I would be aware of. And I'll tell you this one thing too. There's a guy there who is, a mentor to me, and he was giving me some advice on what I would do. And this is the best advice. And this would be great advice for young people, but maybe it's also good advice for people looking for a change in their career. And he said, "John, don't plan out what you're going to do after you graduate from school. Just go to school." He said, in 4 years' time, which turned out to be 4.5, he said, you're going to have new interests. You're going to meet people. You're going to be aware of things you were never aware of. Technology will have developed. You're going to have opportunities that if you plan it out today, you're going to be way off. So just go, enjoy the journey, and keep an eye out for opportunity. And just kind of that fly by the seat of my pants mentality has really enabled me to do a lot of different things. But I think that's some of the best advice because, when I was taking those 6 classes and riding my bike at the beginning of that semester, I literally had no idea what I was going to do when I graduated, but I wasn't worried about it. But I made relationships. I had opportunity, on the horizon. And when it came, I seized it, and still, with this DLC thing, with coronavirus, with all these things, I have no idea where this is going to take me, but I guarantee you it'll take me somewhere. And if I don't do it, I won't go anywhere.
It's just that network again. You never know where it's going to lead. Another door opening up.
Right.
Yeah, I've been there myself, and it's just people that do nothing, take no action. They have good intentions. Well, they only end up with good intentions.
Right. True. Yeah. And, like we talked about earlier, about not being able to know how to do everything, that's been something that's kind of held me back from doing my own thing. But, it's also important to have goals. I don't want to encourage people just to fly blindly. But don't have such stringent goals that it doesn't enable you to end up where you can. The person who's mentoring me right now, we were working on the mission statement for DLC. And she said, "John, there's a difference here. There's a mission statement and there's being on a mission. The mission statement is about what your company is about, right? Being on a mission is what you are about in life and what you're going to pursue, regardless of whether your job has anything to do with it. If you can tie your job, if you can monetize it in a way, you're going to be much more fulfilled and happy in your work than you would otherwise. That's what I strive to be, is just be on a mission. And so understanding, if you have an umbrella goal, like my umbrella guiding light is I want to help people, right? So if you look at how that manifests under that, okay, if everything I want to do helps people, what does that look like? Well, I could end up in a variety of industries and do that. I can do that personally on a weekend to volunteer somewhere. I can, I can do that in my business with networking or with a campaign. How you help people can manifest in a number of different ways. And so I would encourage people to kind of have an overarching goal and then just see where it takes you.
Now that we've talked about the hurdles, let's talk about some successes.
Okay.
What do you consider your biggest success?
Oh, man. That's my biggest success is being a great father. And it makes me even emotional thinking about it. But I have a 5-year-old son, and he is just the light of my life. And so, I hope to achieve things in business. I love skateboarding. I've had some mountaintop experiences, and we can talk about what some of those business, but if we're just talking like me as a person, the greatest accomplishment I think is that I know that I'm a good father who loves his son, and his son loves him.
I kind of thought we were going to go down that direction. And that's awesome. I love it when I hear, people in general, talk about family. So now, what about on the business side?
Yeah. I would say I've had a couple opportunities that I never thought I would do. I'd like to say these were not bucket list items because I never dreamed they'd be on the bucket. They weren't even on the list, right? But I think one of them was doing a TED Talk. It's been a launch pad for me. I talk about all these launch pads. And so just to be able to say you're a TED Talk speaker, you're a keynote speaker, to have something tangible that you can share. I worked so hard on that to make sure that it was a talk that was both beneficial to people, but also well done. And I felt like I accomplished that. And that's so there was a moment, a lot of that it was in a kind of a tough time of my life too. So it was a symbol to me personally, as well as professionally, as far as like, you've done something, I remember standing on that stage. And what's funny is, I'll tell you this, if anybody watches the TED Talk, and if you want to link to it, you're welcome to. But there's a point in the talk where I started laughing a little bit. And fortunately, I thought quick on my feet and I kept going. But I tried to make the talk kind of funny. And you can't really hear it in the video, but the audience was laughing quite a bit. So that was helpful. But there was a point in this talk where I knew if I got to that point, I did it, and it was about 3/4 of the way. Like the last 3/4 was just smooth going, but there's a little bit of nerves doing the rest of it. And when I got to that point, it was almost like an emotional thing of like, and it made me laugh. And I said, I cracked myself up. That was definitely a real cool moment. The other one was being featured on The Barracks, which we can provide a link there too. The Barracks is the most visited skateboarding website in the world. And I had done a video, we talk about these launch pads, this is another launch pad thing, but I had done a video with a supplement brand that was focused on like training and weightlifting and stuff. I did a video that for my 36th birthday, 36 tricks for 36 years. And we plugged the product as, helping me to have the energy and the, stability over skating for 3 hours to get all those tricks done. Well, I sent it to a friend who works at the Barracks, and I met him when I was at GameStop, and he shared it with our creative director, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we should do a feature on John. Like, he's this esports business guy who skates, and he's still pretty good in his old age, So the people who are skateboarders will know this, but the Barracks, it's a private skate park in LA. Like, it's really hard to get in there, and if you've ever been somewhere where you've seen it on TV and then you see it in person, there's that moment. But also their head of filming, his name is Chase. He's kind of a celebrity in the skateboarding world. And so you see him filming the best skateboarders in the world. And so we skated for about 2.5 hours. The first 20 minutes was just so mind-boggling and such a trip that I was skating this park that I'd seen on websites every single day for the last 10 years. And the guy who films the best skaters in the world was actually filming me. And that was just, that was a moment of just complete gratitude and thankfulness that my business career helped me accomplish a dream in skateboarding that I never thought would be possible. So it's like, and what's cool is I'll have that piece of content forever. I'll be able to share that with my son. Regardless of whatever happens, I will always have that I was asked to be there and they did it and we did it together. And it's a cool thing to look back on every now and then.
You have had a very interesting life, and I know why Bob chose you or recommended you. We're getting down to the end of the podcast now, and what I ask every one of our guests is if they know a guy.
Yeah, I do. I know a few guys, but I'll mention one specifically is my good friend, my nacho brethren, which he knows what that means. Every time I order nachos or he orders nachos at a restaurant, we send pictures of them to each other. But he is the co-founder and head creative of my favorite apparel brand, Esports Apparel. Nate Ekman is a guy I know, and he's got an incredible story too, and he's an amazing individual.
Well, based on Bob recommending you, now you recommending Nate, I can't wait to interview him.
You'll love it. He'll love it too.
I'm sure I will. So, John, thank you for being on. Man, I could talk to you for another hour, but this is already going to be a two-parter, it looks like.
Well, thank you. I could as well. So I really appreciate you having me on and all of this time. And huge thank you to Bob for recommending me. And I love doing this stuff. And I hope that some of the stuff we talked about is beneficial to the people who are watching.
And that's why we're doing it. So once again, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That concludes our interview with John Davidson. Make sure to tune in next time to hear our interview with Philip Yang. Philip is an urban planner based out of Sao Paulo, Brazil. His company Urbem focuses on how to create social change through the proper implementation of low-income housing, and many other things as well, but you'll have to listen to the interview to hear about it. That's enough of me, and I'll see you next time.